Good evening, and this is Module 1 Introduction for EDL8526, and my name is Michael Graham. And we are going to talk about introductions today. So to get started, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My name is, of course, Michael Graham, as mentioned. I do work and teach and live in Hazel, Kansas, a little town just south of Wichita. I'm currently just getting back from a soccer tournament, as pictured here. Me and the gentleman, as you see here, are all well into our 30s, with the exception of one of us, and we decided to go and play against a bunch of college kids, and we felt like we did pretty well up in Omaha this last weekend. On a little bit more about me. I am married, father of 3 human children, as you can see in the picture behind me, as my wife Tasha pictured there, and yes, that is a blue and red colored mullet, similar to the mullet I am sporting now today. My children are 13, 11, and 8, soon to be 9. Not ready for that. We have a zoo, for lack of a better term, and you'll see some of them as we pop up through this presentation. My dogs are Pele, 14 years old, Philo, 5, Bella, 4, and Chewbacca, 2. We also have 6 cats now, with Karma, our oldest calico cat, at 3 years old. We have Cookie, Oreo, and Eden, which all belong to my children. And we have 2 young ones that came as a nice little surprise from my middle son's cat, who got out from a vacation we went to. And he came back, and she came back and gave us Squirrely Dan and Dairy. Bonus points for anyone who knows what that's a reference to. So introductions and communication is what this article is about. And this group of articles, I suppose. Apologize. And a lot of what we discussed and looked at in these 3 was how to craft a good introduction and how to tell a story. My story is not probably that unique, but it does revolve around my family, my animals, and my soccer, as you can see from these 3 pictures here. I do play in about 3 or 4 adult tournaments every year. I have way too many animals and the perfect amount of children. So versions of communications that I like to use, and kind of in the order I use them. I am a soccer coach at the high school, the middle school and high school I used to work at. And I use the Remind app a lot, not only communicating for my classroom. I find an easier way to get a hold of parents. I also use it as a soccer coach as a way to remind my students and my student athletes to make sure their grades are up. And that they have all the equipment they need for that day. Of course, an email, Google Classroom, PowerSchool, postcards, and phone calls, kind of in descending order in which I use them. We use a postcard system, for those not familiar with it, where we do a short little note. We try and do it once a week to at least 2 or 3 students, where we send a postcard home in the mail, and normally it gets to them on Friday or Saturday morning at the end of the week. Just kind of saying, hey, good job, keep up the good work, or something that we enjoy about having them in class. Just kind of as that positive reinforcement that we do enjoy having them. The only app I'd like to use, of course, none of those are purchased for me. One of the only apps I'd like to use is my son uses the Heja app. I think it's a lot more organized and much better for teams than the Remind app is, but of course, it's a little bit more difficult to get a district to use it and all that fun stuff. And speaking of communication and direction, my district doesn't do exact training for it. We're just kind of mainly told to stick to school-based communication and information when we try and communicate, and do that as much as needed, especially when, I think about week 3 or 4, we are always encouraged of the 9 weeks to send home notifications of students that are not passing our class. Introductions in the future. The information provided me helped drive home the importance of a quality first impression, as they do make a big difference in terms of how much you will get people to interact with you. If you kind of rub them the wrong way from day one, it makes it much more difficult to interact with them. I also found it will be much more difficult to essentially elicit actual help from those parents if they don't feel like you are on the same page as them. The information also provided will help me be more mindful on how I introduce myself to my class and others in the future. As a future and building ambassador, I would love to use the storytelling portion of how to elicit emotions, as I do have a fairly unique story in terms of how I got to education, some of the things that have happened to me in my education career, and agreed massively with using the concept of using emotions to make introductions memorable. And lastly, the final statement. The correlation, of course, this assignment was an example of communicating through digital means as well as oral means. Video as well as a presentation is a great way to communicate with a larger group. Relevance. This assignment was a great start to the course and learning about great ways to introduce ourselves. Ties very well into us introducing ourselves to the class. A great introduction is the best way to get people to know you and will increase community involvement if they feel like they know you, so they know what you're going to give and bring to the table. The assignment has increased my knowledge and importance of a well-crafted and thoughtful introduction. This will be an added tool in the arsenal as I continue to provide and trying to become a better educator and future building leader. Thank you for your time tonight and have a great day, and I look forward to working with you as we go through this class together.